few people can say they are three-time Canadian champions in any sport. But Sandra Schmirler's team from the Cali Club in Regina can. The Saskatchewan foursome was the best in Canadian women's curling in 1993, in 1994, and again this year at the Scott Tournament of Hearts in Vancouver. And it's even a more select group that can say they are three-time world champions. But Schmirler and her curlers now have a chance for another remarkable hat trick. Today, the march toward world title number 3 continues, because Schmirler and the Canadians are in the semifinals of the 97 Ford Worlds. It still maintains most of its 800-year-old charm. The Swiss capital of Bern, and this week, the host of the 97 Ford World Curling Championships. And this lady has had her eyes on a third World Championship ever since she won her Canadian title in Vancouver. Sandra Schmirler and her team from the Cali Curling Club in Regina, now here in Bern, and the best all week. Except for a midweek stumble, she has made all the shots. Sandra Schmirler finished atop the table at 8-1. No reason to hang your head. Sandra Schmirler, Canada, they're the team to beat. They've become familiar to all curling fans across our country. The team from the Cali Club. The lead, Marcy Gooderite. Teamed at the front end with second Joan Mccosker. And is there a better third and skip combination? Jan Betker and Sandra Schmirler. And today, these former world champions go against the champion herself, Helena Blach-Lavrsen in Denmark, the 1982 world champion, here in Bern. Canada finishing first at 8-1 ahead of Dorothy Nordby, the two-time world champion. Japan, congratulations, the Japanese women qualifying for their first ever playoff at this level. Denmark, Sweden, they played a tiebreaker. On through the three teams on the bottom, Finland, Scotland, and a disappointing week for the Swiss. Their side was from right here in Bern. So it is women's semifinal. Canada against Denmark. Schmirler against Blach-Lavrsen, both world champions.
The 1997 Ford World Curling Championships from Bern, Switzerland are brought to you by Ford Motor Company of Canada Limited, by Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, Seeing Beyond, and by Labatt, Good Things Brewing.
You know, so much of Bern, Switzerland remains as it was hundreds of years ago, from the medieval cobblestone streets here on the Market Gaze to the architecture to the old clock tower, which served as the western gate to the city, built back in 1550. The city of Bern, founded in 1191. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Swiss capital of Bern and TSN's coverage of this 1997 Ford World Curling Championships on a busy day, because this is semi-final Friday, and both Canadian teams have qualified for. Coming up a little later, the Canadian Kevin Martin from the Otwell in Edmonton on the ice against Sweden and Peter Lindholm. But coming right up, the Canadian women's champions from the Cali Club in Regina, Sandra Schmirler. She's been the best all week at 8-1. And with their thoughts, Lyndon Ray.
Thanks, Vic. And Ray, doesn't he look great? Doesn't look like he's had too much of that Toblerone bar he got earlier.
I thought that was for me, Linda, but I haven't seen much of it, so I think he's been nibbling away. You know, Vic's mother was born here in Switzerland, and our little Swiss announcer feels pretty well at home here.
He does, and he's mentioned how good Canada has been. Yes, best record. Best shooting percentages at every position. Plus, minus, yes, all the best at everything. And you have to say a very consistent performance all around. One little blip, one loss, and that was to Germany. And Andrea Schopp, she has a good team, and I think maybe Canada a little tired at that midweek point. A few aches and pains in the team, but now they seem ready. And they will have to play well, because Denmark may have a record that looks, well, down the list at 5-4. But Helena Blach-Lavrsen is a former world champion. 1982, she won the title. She's got a solid team. They play well together. They train hard. In the tiebreaker game against Sweden, her second, Dorte Holm, made 2 double peels in 10 to keep the ice open for her skip. You know they can play, and you know they're going to come up big, as they always do against Canada.
Well, they always do against Canada, but they're going to have to curl very, very well to beat Sandra and this team from Saskatchewan, because they're just a tremendous unit. The front end is as good as any front end in curling, male or female. They work tremendously together. And Jan Betker, she's the John Kawaja of this game. As far as I'm concerned, she's mean, she can spit it out, and she can make everything, and she works so well with Sandra. So it's a tremendous team. They want that 3rd win. They want to be 3-time world champions. I look for them to give this Denmark team all they can handle.
Great game coming up. Stay tuned. Back to you, Vic.
The city of Bern has done a wonderful job in maintaining its medieval look, but it faces what so many European cities do, a traffic problem. Lots of it here on the Market Gaza. When we come back, semi-final Friday begins as both Kevin Martin and Sandra Schmirler look to take that next step into the finals of these Ford World Curling Championships from Bern, Switzerland, and here on TSN. Welcome back to the Almond Eisstadion here in Bern, Switzerland. Semi-final Friday about to begin here on TSN. And our semi-final between Denmark and Canada being played on Sheet B. So let's get an idea of what the ice might be like. Time to read the ice now. Brought to you by CIBC. Here's Ray.
Well, Victor, with Hans Wuttrich and Dave Merklinger have really given us a tremendous ice surface here. Nothing on my screen. Okay, a tremendous ice surface. It's about 23.5 from the hog line to the tee line. It is a little tricky. It changes a little bit. Now, going around the center line guard, it's about 3.5 to 4 feet. Going around the corner guards, lots of movement, about 3.5 to 4 feet. But when I say tricky, the away end is a little bit thinner. The ice is about 4 centimeters. And so as a result, it's a little bit slower. Coming home, it's thicker, about 14 centimeters, and so it's a little bit faster. So slower going down, about 23, as I say, to 23.5. Coming home towards the home end here, about 24 to 24.5. If they have to drop the brine, if it warms up in here, then there could be a little bit of frost, but frost has not been a problem all week. Hans Wuttrich, Dave Merklinger have given us a great surface. This should be a terrific curling game.
Canada playing blue stones, Denmark yellow, and the Canadians do have the hammer in this first end of play. The Danish lead is Lisa Richardson.
And the last rock advantage is determined if one team is clearly ahead after round-robin play by that round-robin record. Canada with the best record here all week. Well, yes, they did get last rock, but color of stone was by a toss of the coin. And Canada felt fairly fortunate. They wanted the blue stones, and so they got those as well. So a good start for Canada. First stone into the house, that means it can be removed.
Good, Mars.
Well, you mentioned in the beginning of the show, Vic, how focused this Canadian team has been, and Linda also mentioned the fact that maybe midweek they got a little tired, and it's been a long season for this Canadian team. They didn't have to go through the grind and the hunt that some of the Canadian teams did to get that Olympic berth in Brandon, but they curled a lot. They had their wind away out of Saskatchewan back to the Scott Tournament Heart, so it's been a long season. The round robin, though, they were able to keep it all together. They were much more consistent, for example, than the men's team was. And I really believe that they'll be very tough. This Marcia Gooderite has been terrific. Her numbers have been the highest of any curler here all week.
Well, Linda mentioned the loss midweek to Germany and Andrea Schopp, the '88 world champion. It was right after that, though, they turned it up, Linda. You know, you wonder if teams, and Ray says you wonder about Kevin Martin being able to turn it up. The Canadian women did against Sweden in draw number 8 yesterday morning, and my, they just smoked the Swedes.
Played very well against Sweden and very well against this Danish team. And yeah, Canada, I think, because they just had a little bit of tiredness midweek, and Marcy wasn't feeling as well. Jan had a sore leg, so everything was just not going as well. But they could smell the semifinals coming. You also have to say about Denmark, they had kind of an up and down week, and one of the things that they were feeling this week was the pressure of earning a berth for their country into the Olympics. And they played very well. A little bit of a letdown as soon as they knew they had that position in the Olympics. And so on their last day, they weren't as strong, and they will now have to turn it up a notch.
And our viewers will have to remember that only 8 countries will play in the Olympics next year, and so it was very important, and a lot of added pressure on a lot of the teams here, and you could see that they all felt it. Everybody obviously wanting to participate, every country wanting to participate in that first Olympic Games where it's an official medal sport. So there was a lot of extra pressure. Now, it'd be interesting to see how Sandra plays, because I think it's to Helena's advantage if they just go up and down the ice. Linda, I think that the Canadian team is stronger at all 4 positions. But as you mentioned, the Danes have won a world championship. They don't do a lot of competitive curling during the season outside of their country. And so they don't get as much competition, of course, as the team from Saskatchewan. But there's a danger, I believe, that if you keep them in the game too long, in other words, if you don't force them, and they, as each end goes by a little bit, Linda, it's a confidence factor, it's a confidence build, you know.
No, I agree. The one thing about the speed of play, and one reason why Canada might not mind it open in the first end, there have been a lot of very slow games. Even with Canada, they found that the pace has been a little slow in some of the games. And the time clock has ticked away. Remember, they have 75 minutes and no timeouts to start the game, a little bit different than in Canada. So they probably don't mind a little bit of faster pace to the start of the game, but they definitely will, I believe, have to be the ones to force some of those quiet come-around shots.
We're playing third stones here in this first end of play. Women's semifinal of these Ford Worlds from Bern, Switzerland. And Canada with the hammer here in this first end.
The ice has been wonderful all week. Lots of curl, as I mentioned. Right, you can get around the centers, you can get around the corners. With the 4-rock rule, of course, there isn't as much corner play. That's something we've discussed through our telecasts all season long. The differences between the 4-rock rule and the 3-rock rule, and you don't see as much corner guard play. But if it's available, you can certainly get around them. It's a little tricky, as I mentioned, going away, going down this way. It's a little slower, about 23, may get to 23.5 when you're going away from the home end, as we are in this first end. So you have to be able to adjust the weight because it gets faster when you come back.
Margit Portner, this Almond Ice Stadium, the home of the Bern Bears of the Swiss League. They won the championship a couple of weeks ago. They had 17,000 in here for their final. And the floor really did slope badly, some 13 centimeters difference, and it required upwards of 33 floods by the ice makers to make it level. Seating around the edges, and it is open, and that has been a problem for the ice makers. There are birds in here, and so we've all decided if it catches a hair, that's one thing. If it catches maybe rug fiber, that's one thing. But if it catches something from a bird, we're not touching it.
And if we are touching it, you're doing it because you're so smooth.
Thank you.
Getting in and out of those little jackpots. An open end, up and down the sheet they go.
Very fortunate, though, Vic, that it's been great weather. You've told us all week, of course, wonderful weather. And the nice thing with it being open, if it was raining outside, they would have that humidity problem. They haven't had to deal with that very much. A little bit of an airflow issue, but because the ceiling is so high, that also hasn't been a problem. And I understand the reason the floor wasn't level to begin with was this was originally an open stadium, and they wanted to make sure that all the water would flow away to one end if they'd ever had any problems like that.
Yeah, like many stadiums, this roof was added later.
She's been staying up late at night again, hasn't she, Vic, reading all those little footnotes.
That is a record for any curler at a World Championship. 15th appearance for Helena.
Wow, hey, Vic.
One of the things she's found hard over the years is motivation, because she's been here so many times. And I believe a bit of a problem for European teams because they play each other so many times. But when she plays Canada, she plays so well. And in those 15 appearances, she's got her share of wins over Canada in round-robin play.
We've talked about this through the season too, Linda. There's some concern, and I have some concerns, and all of us have concerns about some of the European countries where the game has really not grown. It's really disappointing. For example, there are less curlers in Norway, less curlers in Sweden, less curlers in Denmark than there were in the early 70s, and that's not a good sign. And you can see that is not in any way a knock against Helena, Andrea Schopp, Dorothy Nordby. They're wonderful curlers. They're deserving of their national and world championships, but it doesn't look good for the growth of the future of the game. We've got to get more people into the game, and it's got to start growing. In reverse of that, what a tremendous showing by this young Japanese team. You know, they've worked hard the last 5 or 6 or 7 years to get themselves in position. They qualified clearly, as you mentioned, Vic, and they look good doing it. And I'm sure they will give Dorothy Nordby all she can handle.
That semifinal to start in about 15 minutes from now, as Sandra Schmirler plays her first stone. Canada with the hammer here in this first end of play.
You notice a little bit different thing that the Danish team do. It's Dorte Holm, the person that throws second rocks, that holds the broom for Helena. Margit, the person throwing third rocks, sweeps. I just thought I'd make sure that both of you were up on that before we got going here.
You want to repeat it for me, please?
It becomes a little confusing. They are throwing yellow rocks as well.
Okay.
And Canada has last rock.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Well, she's starting early. Yeah.
Just,
You'll be doing these telecasts alone next year. Actually.
and just 7.5 hours to go.
Yeah,
That's right.
Final stone for Denmark. And Helena Blach-Lavrsen. It was a family affair for Denmark here this week at the World Championships. Her husband played for Ulrik Schmidt-Lasse. He was the third on that Danish side that just failed to qualify for the playoffs.
You have to wonder if maybe Helena's last game against Canada, where she did not play well, it was her worst game, maybe came off the fact that Ulrik and his team, with her husband on it, just failed to qualify for the playoffs. And she just finished watching that game and then had to come back out on the ice herself, and maybe was feeling a little down about that.
Well, it could have an effect for sure. But one of the things about Helena that we've seen her, obviously we've seen her a lot of times. She's every time you turn around, she's hurt. But she, Linda, in my opinion, she can look very, very good or very, very poor. There's kind of like no in between. When she's going and going well, she's very difficult to beat. But I've seen her look so bad sometimes.
Like that little girl with the curl, she can be very good or very bad. Canada with the throw-through blanks this first end of play. It's the women's semifinal here at the Ford Worlds in Bern, Switzerland. It's a beautiful view of the city of Bern from the Rose Garden. Welcome back to the Swiss capital and our coverage of the women's semifinal, these 97 Ford Worlds. A blank in the first means Canada maintains control of the hammer. One stone played already. Danish lead Lisa Richardson, and she throws up the center line guard.
Lots of room.
With that 4-rock rule at the World Curling Federation level, that means that the team throwing first can get 2 guards up before the team with last rock can make a play on them. So you know that the team with last rock, that's Canada, is going to go around these center line guards almost every time. The attempt didn't quite make it. Stone's not fully in.
Lisa Richardson playing lead, the native of Schenectady, New York.
And Lisa didn't start to curl until she was in Canada with her boyfriend, Ulrik Schmidt. 1989 was the first year she started to play, and of course now she's extremely keen and very competitive and works hard at the game.
It's interesting, I was mentioning to Ray,
Okay, Lisa.
I was talking to Ulrik Schmidt, the Danish champion, and you're right, he'd spent a couple of years working in Canada. He lived in Cambridge area of Ontario. And when I went to interview him, I said, "Hi, I'm Vic Router with TSN. Are you familiar?" He says, "Oh, I know you well. In fact, I get all the tapes sent to me." And you know, Ray, it's a funny thing. A lot of teams now are getting tapes sent to them, and they are if I may so say, going to school on the broadcasts and the analysis that you and Linda do.
Well, I think, yeah, that's kind of you to say that Victor, as far as Linda's not concerned, but also they get a chance to listen themselves to the, to the top curlers in the world because of the microphones, and there's no question you can use that as a, as a learning instrument, and they do that. They get all the tapes. There's a lot of the countries that do that, get copies of the games, and they use them, and they use them in seminars and things as well. And
Marcy Gooderite with her second stone, slides to the back and just stays in play. Dana's second, Dorte home.
Wait. Yeah. Wait. Come on.
This is the adjustment we talked about. There was a draw, of course, and it just came a little too deep. But coming this way, it's a little faster, Linda, than it is going down. Maybe you could put your trusty little watch on it for us, as you usually do.
Yeah, I did on that draw that went through, and it timed hog to hog at 13 seconds, so definitely coming this way. It's already up to normal draw speed, and you do have to watch that leg drive coming each direction.
That would be a Swiss watch, I would hope, Linda.
Joan Mccosker.
That's good, Joan. Good shot.
Nose hit.
Tell you, one person who was thankful for the 4-rock rule was Kevin Martin, because he said it was a couple of times he found himself down terribly, and it was the 4 rocks that he said allowed him to get himself back in and set up steal situations. Thought it was a lot easier with 4-stone rule.
It is easier to get back in the game, especially trying to steal points, which he had to do on occasion. And his team is very capable of putting up the stones and making the great come-arounds, because you can have guards up using the rule, but if you don't make the great come-around or a nice come-around tap back on an opponent's stone, you're still not going to generate points, and they were able to do that.
The out-turn come around for Joan Mccosker. She wants this rock top of the 8-foot behind the corner guard. This is the quick end, so you have to watch your draw weight here.
Close. Weight must be close. Line's good.
It'll start to move as it comes off the center line. You can get behind these corners, no problems.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Spot in front of the tee.
There's a great indication of how it curls. It's fully buried. A terrific shot by Joan Mccosker. Not a surprise.
Third stones, and Margit Portner of Denmark.
They're going to try the run back on the guard.
Whoa. Whoa. Wait. Wait.
Nice shot by Margit.
Uh-oh. Another high five. They're not going to have any hands left by the 7th. This game is called
A little more than Joan.
sore hands.
See a lot of that among the Europeans.
A lot of it.
Jan Betker.
Okay, we need full 8. Just for 8. Line's good. Full 8 we need. Line's fine, just for 8. What do we got? Oh. You gotta watch. Can't hit this. Can't
Little
hit
slide here.
Super. Great shot.
Also,
Look at the late movement too, Linda, how he even tucks a corner in. It's like it makes a little turn right at the end.
yeah, one of the tremendous things is that they brought David Merklinger and Hans Wojcik from Manitoba, and David, of course, from Ottawa here, and they worked with a terrific ice crew. It was a difficult surface, as we've already talked about. Linda doing her research, of course, knowing it was an outdoor building and now an indoor building. So, and it was a tough building to work, but they just did a tremendous job, and it's been wonderful. And that, once again, those 2 shots, a terrific example of how it curls.
Margit Portner.
Whoa.
Well by. And able to pick the Canadian stone out. Second end, no score in Canada with hammer, but it's Denmark. Lying 1, top 8, and buried.
It was a terrific run back that put them into that position. A good come around earlier by Joan Mccosker, and then a straight run through. So
How's the weight?
it's obvious that Danish team is keyed for this game, Linda.
Line's fine,
And they have a habit of getting up for Canada.
Where are you?
Oh, they always have when I played them. I know that much, and I played Helena a lot.
Well, we got
And they're
more
coming
weight.
off a win earlier today, so they've been on the ice. They're ready.
Okay.
Is that, are you intimating that she beat you regularly? Is that what you're saying? Or
Well, I won't say regularly, but you always knew you were in for a game.
did she ever beat you?
I think once. Yep, she did in the Olympics, as a matter of fact. But that's round robin play, and we all know you can sort of file those.
Who won the Olympics?
No.
We know.
But the same with the teams here. They know that round robin play is just to get you to the playoffs. Different system here with the semifinal sudden death. There is no page system. The loser of these two semis are playing for the bronze. The other two move on to the gold medal game.
Ja, det har jeg også fået den til. Der var den under opvarmningen.
It's an interesting thing, Linda, I saw this week is that the Europeans tend to play a lot of takeout shots rather than soft kind of stones, try to tap things back. Would you agree with me?
I think we're seeing more quiet play this year than we have in some years. Some years there is the tendency to throw the huge weight on takeouts, but you just saw a couple of very nice shots by Denmark. One a run through that was not huge weight, and another nice come around with fairly packed to board weight type throwing. So I think we've seen less of it this year, and I think we've seen a lot of come around play with the four-rock rule coming into effect.
Trying to draw the other side and lie to Denmark.
Just to go a little further in your thought, Dick, it's an interesting comment you make, and it's very true, I believe. But one of the reasons in the past, in Europe, the ice was always so straight, and you never curled very much. So as a result, you didn't have a lot of choices. You had to play races and tapbacks to get rocks covered. And the ice surface here is so similar to what because of the ice makers, of course. To what we have at home that you can get around, and it's all this week I've seen a lot of good soft come arounds and quiet shots. The other thing about this building, I remember in 1974, it was lightning fast. It was so quick out there. The rocks were dull, and you were talking about 27-second ice from hog line to tee line, and it was just impossible. I know Hector Bay was here that year for Canada, and maybe he was as good a draw man as there was ever to play this game, really had trouble getting a feel, because when it gets so fast like that, Linda, there's no difference between top 12 foot and back 12 foot. You can't feel it underneath you. And it is a game of touch. And chance for Sandry here. Double possibility.
First stone for the Canadian skip here in 2.
Yep.
And you do have to believe, though, curling
should be used in that situation, Richard, but I think that there's no question, until there's more interest in these areas, I think we deserve, the athletes deserve to play this game where it's really being appreciated, where they can get a little bit of the media hype and the attention that they play this game. We're amateurs, we play this game all year long for the love of it, and I think that they're entitled to play it in front of people. So for a while, until the rest of the world catches up, I think, yes, it should be played in Canada more often than it certainly is. The attendance here has not been great all week. You're right.
And in fact, the announcement was made this week that next year's World Championship will be held in Kamloops. So we'll be look forward to being there for the Ford Worlds. And the year after that, the thought is possibly St. John, New Brunswick.
Yeah, and that's great of Kamloops. It's just terrific to step in and to.
We'll take a break as the curlers continue with theirs here in Bern. The seating here at the Almond is a combination of actually seating and standing places. And 4 sheets in play. 2 for the men's semifinals, 2 for the women. The finals we played on the center sheet, sheet C. As we take a look at the numbers now after 5, Linda.
Hasn't been a lot of scoring, some interesting play. There has been the 1 steal, And that's the first point at the end by Denmark. And then, of course, Canada coming back with a steal later on. And that's why it's 2-1. And look at the reverse. Canada draws not as good so far in this game, whereas Denmark, well, their hits are a little bit lower. So the numbers totally are about the same, but they got there 2 different ways.
So Canada with the steal in 5 to lead 2-1. It's Denmark that has the hammer here in 6, and the first stone just thrown by Canadian lead Marcy Gooderite, and she'll put it top 12, top 8.
And that's where she was asked to put it. Sandra clearly called the rock into the rings.
Just a little interesting note. I talked about the first steal of the end being by Denmark, but Canada has had the hammer in this game to start the game. The only game they lost all week was when they lost the coin toss, and that was the game against Germany. They won 8 tosses. Remember, this draw is not predetermined as to who has hammer in the first end as it is in Canada. And that's pretty amazing record for coin tosses, winning 8 of the flips out of the 9 games in round-robin play.
The other little sidelight about this particular sheet is that, oddly enough, or interestingly enough, Linda, on this particular sheet, the Blue Stones won only 4 games, and the Yellow Stones won 12. Yet the Canadian team, both Canadian teams chose the Blue Stones. So it's kind of, it's kind of interesting.
Now, being with Curl BC, you must be very pleased that the Ford Worlds are going to Kamloops.
I have to give them full credit because there was talk that the event was going to go to Glasgow, and then the committee there just couldn't put it together. And so there was discussions of where it could go in Canada. And Kamloops, think of all the events they've hosted. They hosted the Canada Summer Games a couple years ago, and then the Labatt Dryer last year. They always do a tremendous job. It's a city we call in BC the tournament capital of our province. And full credit to the committee there to take on the event. They'll do a fabulous job. They always do.
Absolutely.
And it's a great place to go. If you love curling, head to Kamloops next year.
Hurry!
Joan Mccosker.
Quick! Hold it. Good, Joan.
Well, going back to that last end for just a moment, Vic, there was definitely a chance because that rock got by Linda, got by the front stone by about 6 inches. So if she had maybe taken a little less ice, or thrown a little less weight, one or the other, and got by the front rock a little bit tighter, I think that double, especially for 2, moving on enough to get 2, and for 3 was there. So it was a chance for Denmark to get a little jump in this game, and it's a big swing. She hit it on the nose, and Canada steals a point, but that's the kind of thing that can really make a huge difference.
I'm sure a little sigh of relief from Canada when that happened.
And coming up, of course, the men's semi-final, Kevin Martin, tied with Scotland at 7-2, will place Sweden and Peter Lindholm.
As Linda mentioned in her opening comments, Canadians across the country are very used to seeing Peter. He does travel to our country an awful lot to play, and obviously it's worked well for him. He goes and gets the competition, and then goes back to Sweden, and the results so that he's here, and now he's in a semi-final for a world championship. Goes out of his way, spends the money to go out of his way to get the competition.
Danish second, Dorothy Holm.
I had the opportunity to go to Copenhagen and work with this team as well as all the other national teams in Denmark. My husband Al and I went a few years ago, and it's really interesting. They do work hard at the game. As a matter of fact, you saw a no backswing delivery from Dorte Holm there. Helena herself, who's played for a number of years, is a world champion, made the conversion to the no backswing delivery, always looking for some new way to try and make her delivery and her whole game a little bit better. And very pleased to work with them. They were very open to all kinds of input, both about the tactical approach, the technical approach to the delivery, and the mental side of the game. And they really do work hard.
Jan Betker. As we play up and down the sheet here in this 6th end, 2-1 Canada leading.
Nice roll away from the other corner guard. Get it to the other side. It can be used now if Helena wants to, and that's exactly what she's going to do. She's going to draw to the face of it, freeze down to it, try and utilize it. She can get a rock in front of this, and then possibly get a A peel that kills the blue stone, you can then go across and go behind the corner. But a chance to utilize a stone behind the tee line. Denmark with last rock.
Den er god retning, den er god. Kom nu! Kom nu! Kom nu, der skal kæmpe as. Kom nu! Kom nu, du kan blive god. Kom nu! Kom nu! Kom nu, du kan blive god. Bliv nu
Lisa
ved.
Richardson,
Bliv ved.
Dorothy
Kom nu.
Holm trying to
Bliv ved.
drag this
Bliv ved.
stone of Margaret Porter as far as they can. And they get it there for a shot.
With a few feet of weight.
So look at our two-time world champions. Two of them here, Dorothy Nordby winning in 1990 and 91. She wants to make it through to the final to try and get her third, as does Sandra Schmirler, who won in 93, 94. The two-time winner shown there, Elizabeth Gustafsson, formerly Johansson.
Interesting, as you looked at that, you had Dorothy Nordby twice, Johansson Gustafsson twice, Peterson twice.
And Marilyn Bodo, who won in 1986 and 96, so she is a two-time winner, just not within the 90s. didn't make that list, but she is it herself.
Once again, an attempt at the freeze. This turning slides a little better. It's a little quicker coming this way. We've already talked about that, so it's just a matter of judgment now.
Great view of the sweeping. These two players use those brushes that turn at various angles. They turn them sideways to try and get closer to each other, closer to the stone.
It's a good-looking shot. Sandra's first one, pick that out of there. Hit it right in the nose, you can get rid of both of them and you'll be in front of the tee line. Hit it right on the nose. Get rid of the blue one, as well as the yellow one. And she's gone to the outside in shot, the in turn.
First of the skip stones here in 6. One of the things that Sandra was saying to me during the week, Linda Ray, was that at times Canadians are surprised by what the opposition calls, and it makes it difficult because they expect certain shots to be called against them so they can play shots, and then when they're not called, they go, whoa, now what do we do? Did you find that playing internationally, Linda?
Yes, and they're really referring to the teams that aren't as experienced. For example, here Finland, who doesn't get the competition as much, and they'll play several ends wide open. You'll think that's the way they're going to approach it, and suddenly they'll throw a rock into play that you don't expect. So it is tough sometimes. But I don't think you'll see that in this game. I think Helena's got a pretty good head for the game, and she'll play it the way I think Sandra expects. She made good plays this end, but that's a nice shot by Sandra to get rid of the rock that was sitting in front of her own.
That's a nice shot. She's now moved it to in front of the tee line, so Helena will just hit it. She indicated she might like to roll across the sheet a bit, but at this stage of the end, you're almost prepared to get through it and blank it. Maintain last rock.
First stone for the Danish skip, Helena Blach-Lavrsen.
Væk.
Good shot.
A little surprised, Vic, when I mentioned Finland and Jana Jokela and a little bit of lack of experience. And she works very hard as much as she can with the lack of competition in Finland. I thought you might jump in with her coach.
Jussi Pavlniemi, who was also playing, of course, with his brother Markku Jussi Pavlniemi. They had both teams had a bad week. The most disappointing thing for the Swiss fans, though, was the performance of both Swiss teams, both men and women, and there was a lot of pressure on them, and that's one of the things that organizers were hoping, that they'd have Swiss teams in the semifinals, and that might help boost the crowds.
Well, there's no question that would have helped. Had the Swiss teams both gone well this week, it would have helped the crowds immensely. In 1979, when Peter Attinger played Christian Sorum in this very building, there were 16,000 people in here for the final, and a huge number for the semifinal.
Yep.
So the interest was generated by the Swiss teams being, doing so well, and there were, a lot of non-curlers here. But without the Swiss teams doing very well,
Nice shot.
and obviously the people just that are not curlers at all stayed away.
In fact, that was the record crowd until the Labatt-Breyer final, which topped
on,
17,000 at the Saddle Dome.
And there was more than just the hometown pressure on the teams from Switzerland. Denmark on the women's side, Helena with her record this week added to her point total. 3 years of points are collected at the World Championships to count towards the Olympics, and she edged out Switzerland that came into this event tied with her for points, because Helena's performance was better this week. So a lot of pressure on the Swiss women to try and get there, and of course playing in their home country, and things just didn't go well for them.
Final stone here in 6. Canada leading 2-1. Helena Blach-Lavrsen trying to blank and maintain control of last rock.
Wow.
And no problem.
No problem at all for the former world champion of 1982. Canada with a 2-1 lead over Denmark.
Der er hele tiden en flue, der kommer en flue i hovedet.
Updating the game between Japan and Norway, 4-3. Norway leading as they play 5. Dorothy Nordby with her final stone had it pulled on a hogline violation, so this the final stone of the Japanese skip Mayumi Okutsu. Playing the double here, Linda. I thought she'd draw against 3, but she plays the double and only gets one of them out and gives up the steal of 2.
She did have the option for drawing, but she felt she could make the double and try and score. Tough shot.
So Norway leading 6-3 over Japan as they go to their 5th end break. Here the blank in 6 leaves Denmark still with the hammer. Canada leading 2-1.
Godt, Lisa.
And they're playing a waiting game on this sheet. Denmark has the hammer, so they know they've got 1 point in hand. They know they could tie the game if they wanted. They're waiting for that opportunity to try and get the second point with the hammer.
Whoa. Okay.
That may have caught something, I think, because it just went sideways. I don't think it did. I know it did.
And the countries that have qualified for Nagano next year, Canada coming into it had lots of points. Great Britain, remember, Scotland, England, and Wales, if they had played together, would have counted. But in this case, it was just Scotland that brought the points. And Denmark edged out Switzerland for that last berth. So 8 teams will be in Nagano next year playing for the Olympic medals.
In turn draw to the other side of the rings now to lie 2. Denmark with last rock, an opportunity to get that control point.
11-84.
Sliding pretty quickly.
And out the back.
Those are opportunities. You can't miss those opportunities. Chance for Canada now to play the outturn hit. Get rid of this stone.
Joan Mccosker. Scottish women's team here this week. Carol and Hutchison from Lockerbie. They were a disappointment, Linda. And I guess the Scots are going to do something similar to us. They'll have an Olympic playdown too.
And in the case of, I know in men's play, they've had Wales and England with teams in World Championships in prior years. So I know they've worked out a formula as to how those teams within Great Britain will play off for the berth for the Olympics.
Dorte home.
Outturn hit.
And she can't hold the shooter. I thought after what we saw in the 2nd and 3rd ends, the 2 teams might really throw some stones at each other, but we've seen a pretty wide open game.
And we've seen some mental errors, because that draw by Lisa, the Danish lead, that's a mental error, being that much heavy when you're splitting the house. Dorte there, her out turns are a little bit weaker than her in turns so far this game, and she rolls out so Canada can come back to the center line area.
Now, you make a good point too, Lindy. It's a mental mistake because that rock short of the rings can do you some good as a corner guard, but when you throw it through, it really is it's a mistake with the head, not the hands, as much as anything else.
Okay.
You should be able to split the rings. In this particular situation. Those are opportunities. It's a game of pressure. If you keep the pressure on, eventually, somewhere, somehow, you'll pick up those extra points. Turn hit again.
Very familiar elastic bands signifying which players throw which stones on the handles of those yellow rocks.
And this time the shooter sits top 8. Jan Betker.
And you don't really have to put elastic bands to work out your stones. Every stone is numbered or lettered, and so you can figure out pairs, but you don't necessarily throw 2 rocks in order. That is, stone 1 and 2 aren't necessarily a pair. You go through the stack of rocks and try to match them for a game.
Prøv bare normal igen.
Margit Portner.
Oui. Kom nu, oui. Kom nu, oui. Lidt mere, oui. Kom nu. Kom nu, derude.
Who will win this year's Women's World Championship? Canada looking to move on to the final if they can win this over Denmark and add to their championship. Now standing at 9. And Denmark's lone championship included their current skip, Helena Blach-Lavrsen, in 1982 when she played with Marianne Jorgensen.
I also saw Norway's 2 titles, and both of those by Dorothy Nordby, who would like to go on to her 3rd this year as well.
Well, Helena Black going with Marianne that year. The World Championships were in Geneva, so Switzerland's been good to them, if that's any kind of an omen. I believe that was the year that Colleen Jones was there. Representing Canada.
Det er kun for der er ingen retning inden. Ja. Den må godt komme lige med. Kom nu. Nej. Wow, den skal ligge foran den anden. Foran. Det er ikke meget. Der var kæft for en dødelig der. Godt spillet.
They're trying to keep it high in the house in case there was a very thin shot played by Canada. It might jam on that yellow stone that is outside the rings near the boards.
Do you think Denmark has to eventually start forcing it? I mean, I guess the fact that Lisa makes the mental mistake and throws it through changes what they hope to do, but getting those stones out in front, I would suspect you're going to have to maybe ignore the Canadians in the rings, no?
Well, you 3 of us have talked about this all year. You know how I feel about it. I feel that I like to go early. I like to go right away. I like to get at it. I don't want to wait. I think it's to an advantage, and this is only my own personal opinion. I think it's an advantage to Denmark to let them play through the game, to let them get to 7, to get to 8, to get to 9, without mixing it up and trying to go after them. I'm not suggesting it's always going to work, and you're going to have the big lead, or you're going to have a 2 or 3 point control. But I think it's an advantage to the team Denmark to hang in there. They become more confident as they slide through the the 5th, 6th, and into the 7th. And then if something does go wrong, the best example, we've talked about it before, we saw it in Milwaukee when Igo Ramsfeld was playing Switzerland, and he played up and down the sheet with Switzerland that particular year, and let Switzerland play the kind of game that they like to play, and all of a sudden there was a bad break in 9, and in 8 actually it was, and Switzerland got 2, and Igo couldn't get back in the game. So there's a danger of waiting for sure, as far as I'm concerned.
Problem is, Linda, though, if you do wait, you only get 1 chance usually, and then if you don't make it, it's too late, then you're looking at an extra end and loss of hammer usually.
If they can blank this end, I'm anticipating that Helena will want to make a move in 8. That's just my feeling. Game's gone along now. For a little while, she had that great chance, a double, a hard shot, but a chance for 2 or 3. That didn't materialize, and now I'm not sure she can wait much longer.
First for the Danish skip.
Kom alligevel meget. Godt. Til sidst. Det må man sige.
Canadian women had the first day off. They played only 1 draw on the opening Saturday, and then they had the opening ceremonies last Saturday evening. And they've had 2 4-draw days, which bothered some of the players. 8 o'clock starts, and then playing 4 draws, 2 and 2. Final stone for Canada. Denmark with the hammer.
One thing very noticeable today is that without Switzerland involved in any of these games out here, either one of the 2 games being played out here, it really is quiet in here. There was some noise earlier in the week when the Swiss fans were here cheering for their country, but it's very, very quiet out here now.
You're right. I think, though, if the Japanese get back into their game, they've sort of been adopted, Linda, as the favorites now. I think with the Swiss teams out of it, no Swiss women's team. I think the Japanese women might be the Swiss fans' pick.
And they're the underdog in that game, definitely playing a 2-time world champion. So I think the fans have a little feeling for the Japanese. And if they do get back in it, you'll hear some cheering. And if this game has some excitement, because we're seeing a very open game, you'll also hear the fans get into it.
Well, that's a good point, too. Then the game really, other than maybe 2 ends, the game really hasn't been very... hasn't leaned at all to the offense.
Final stone. Denmark. Whoa. Looking to blank again and maintain control of the hammer.
Sandra got a good roll to the center line area. That means it's a longer roll for the blank. She won't get it.
No, she'll sit there and take her single and give up control of the hammer. So we've played 7. We're all even 2-2, and now we'll see if Sandra Schmirler and Canada become a little bit more aggressive when we come back to Bern. Well, it's a wonderful way to see the old part of Bern, a carriage ride up the Mccosker towards the old clock tower. Welcome to Bern, the Almond Ice Stadium, and the site of this year's Ford World Curling Championships. Coming up, it's the men's semifinal. Kevin Martin against Peter Lindholm, Canada and Sweden. And it'll begin play, I would suspect, in about an hour and a half from now. As you look at the Canadian 5th, that's Atina Ford and Mother Anita right beside Lindsay Sparks, who is the team's coordinator, team's liaison. Brian Mccosker in there. And it's interesting that Atina Ford played a couple of games this week, replacing Jan Betker at the 3rd position. Jan bothered, as she was at the Scott Tournament of Hearts, with a pulled groin muscle. So on 2 occasions, Atina, the 5th player, had to come in and played very well for Sandra Schmirler.
I think in one of those games in the Scott Tournament of Hearts, she stepped in and curled about 94%, if I remember correctly, Linda. It was, she's a tremendous curler in her own right, of course, and she's here as the 5th on this team. So if you have to call on her, you certainly are confident in what you're, you know what you're going to get, and that's a lot of shots.
It's nice to show them too, though, because teams are beyond just the 4 players on the ice. They have Anita Ford to draw upon as a coach. Atina can come in and play any position, and she was prepared to do that. She told Vic that this week. And Lindsay Sparks is the team manager, making sure that everything runs well for them this week. So it's a great team effort. All of the people involved have done a terrific job.
And in fact, Linda, I found that interesting. She was picked for this team to play any position, because I thought, and I mentioned it to Sandra, I said, would you in fact then put her at lead and move her? No, she comes in and takes 3rd. If Marcy goes down, she plays lead. If I'm forced to go out, because I am, expecting. If my pregnancy forces me out, she comes in and she's going to skip that team.
And that's tough for a Tina, but nice for the team that every player knows that they're going to have the same role every game, regardless of who's going to be out there with them. And it's a great way to mentally prepare yourself, too, to understand that no matter who heads out on the ice, you're going to have a great team and you're going to play the way you can.
The first rock comes perfectly placed in the center line, just short of the ring, so it's in the free guard zone area. It cannot be removed from play. And then the call, of course, by Sandra to go in behind it. So you're going to have a few rocks in play now. The Canadian stone, the blue stone, is just almost biting the forefoot. And Helena Blach-Lavrsen has decided to draw to the face of it, just freeze to the face of it. So there's offense on the mind of both of these teams here in the 8th. Canada, of course, with last rock.
Lisa Richardson in a 2-2 tie.
Okay. And then Mccosker stop there, Mccosker stop there. Okay, come again, come again. Come again.
Well, Lisa's draw numbers are below her takeout numbers. She has had actually a couple of mistakes on takeouts as well, but that was a good opportunity to get somewhere in front of that blue stone, maybe a corner around the yellow guard, and she just couldn't get there.
Intern draw once again for Marcia.
Last weight. Yes for line.
She said yes for line?
Less weight out of the hand of Marcy Gooderite.
Well, we got room right now. Well,
They'll slide this way a little freer than they do the other way. Wants it to break a little bit for her.
shot.
Live update for you, Japan-Norway, as they play the final stone in 6. 6-3, Norway leading. And the Japanese, Mayumi Okutsu, facing a bunch. 3, and so she makes the draw against 3 to pick up the single in 6. And now it is 6-4. Norway, Dorty Nordby leading, and the Norwegian skip will have the hammer, the last rock, playing 7.
Playing the double here.
Well, she didn't get them both out, but she got them both moving, and that's a good shot. Great numbers from Joan, especially on her takeouts. When I look back on the sheets, 90% on her hits.
You can at least move it to here.
Well, it's interesting because the far end,
you gotta
Joan
do
and Jan and Marcia at the other end kind of wanted to play a draw here, but Sandra said, I don't like the way they're lined
What are
up.
you
They're
thinking?
frozen together, and I like the draw. You can hear Joni. Sandra doesn't like the way the two stones are sitting in front. They are frozen.
No, I like this. That's too dangerous. If we can just play it there, that's good.
Get the hit and roll to a corner.
I don't know.
She makes a good point. They're in a pretty dangerous position. They're in the
No!
Control zone.
control zone, Linda. The word of 97.
That's good. Good shot.
The only thing wrong with this now, of course, is that you roll out and you can give Helena a chance to hit the stone in the 8-foot. And roll if she can.
Dorte home as we play in 8 of a 2-2 tie.
No.
Bet.
Yeah, she'll hang it on the edge of the 12.
It was important to stay there and force Canada to go after it.
Canada could go around here, Linda.
Oh, what are they going?
They could play around the rock out in front on the other side. They do have last rock. It's the 8th end.
Wait! Hurry! Hold it! Good, Joan. You didn't like that
And
call.
she'll sit right there.
Hammer, you know that, eh?
Yeah, I know it. But
Yeah.
those we couldn't really draw around there. If we get it anywhere good, they just fire it back.
there's the reason why. Obviously, Jan Betker agreed with what you said, Ray, and thought they might do that, but Sandra didn't want to.
They were talking about the 2 rocks frozen, I think, Vic. They were going back even 1 rock further. They were talking about, so no, I didn't like those 2 rocks frozen out in front like that.
Helt væk, Lisa.
You saw that Jan had the edge over Margit in numbers. And she doesn't roll in.
Now a chance to duck. Want to keep this in front of the tee line in this area here behind that rock.
And Jan Betker will try to do just that. First for the Canadian third.
You heard Sandra say, here it comes, here it comes.
Now, bye they do. Look at this. And she'll grab a piece of the 4.
Great shot. The run through. Hit the yellow stone, back onto the stone in the rings, the blue stone.
Wait.
It's the exact spot she made one of these earlier, I think, Vic.
Exactly. It's very reminiscent of the second end when Denmark went on to steal a single. Not this time.
Not this time.
She spills the guard away. But Canada can put the second one in now.
Spread them out, other side of the rings.
It's a big shot, and Jan, as I mentioned with Joan, they've had better takeout percentages than drop percentages. Haven't quite had the feel on some of their shots.
This is the 8th in. This is a great time to get your deuce if you can, and they've certainly got it set up now.
Go deep then. Oh, I think she's deep. Pauline is going to take her deep.
Deep to the back 12.
Shot, Jan.
Didn't want to die.
What's that?
I didn't want to die.
No. Your first one.
Well,
They kind of want to get these set up like they want to get these set up even like this. It gives Denmark a chance now to come down hitting this stone and roll over in front.
Thank you.
Denmark looking for the roll over in front of the stone, sitting the back of the 8-foot, full in the 12-foot, about the 7 o'clock position.
Helena has hit well this game, and it's Sandra's draws that have brought those numbers down.
Skip stones here in 8, and it's Denmark and Helena Blach-Lavrsen with the first. 2-2 the score in this women's semifinal.
Back.
She can't hold the shooter.
I don't think I have to go crazy.
No. Want to be in the rings, though. That's the most important thing. But we don't want to be sitting here and give her that roll again, really.
Just talking about the ice, want to make sure they get this into lie 2.
You can go center line then.
Go here.
Plenty.
This looks better. You want less? Here?
No, center line's good. Center line. Not necessarily. Depends on where I am here.
Now they're playing away from the other stone, the other side.
Just half around.
Playing behind the guard.
Behind the corner guard.
That should be plenty.
And the
of
reason
ice,
she was
eh?
debating is she doesn't want to bring it in so that it's fully exposed and allows a hit and roll. So that's why they were taking their time trying to figure out what ice to have.
This is the control point. This is a big deuce. If you can score this 2 and 8, you really put yourself in a terrific position to, to win this game, obviously. And if you only get the single, it's still alive for either team.
Well, if you can.
So it doesn't mean if you score 2 that it's over, but it certainly gives you the control of it.
Lots of room.
The first for Sandra Schmirler.
Not behind the tee,
Don't
guys.
be behind the tee line. Okay.
Shoot. It's too deep.
She doesn't like it. She thinks it is too deep.
Well, a couple of things could happen here. You're going to come down and hit this one here. You could hit that and roll over this way here. The other thing that can happen, of course, is you come down and hit this one here, and just roll over slightly this way here into this area, and you'd be in behind this corner guard.
With the ice moving as well it is, Linda, is anything really safe now behind yards? You have to really leave them top. I guess that's the key, is it?
Yeah, it was positioning. She wanted either to get a corner tucked or not quite so deep. But with the weight, Denmark's having a little bit of trouble. It's not curling quite as much with weight, and that's why she's also struggling to find the right range for these hits and rolls.
Not quite sure. And I'm sure that Helena Blach-Lavrsen realizes too how important this end is. And she could hold the Canadians to 1 and get the hammer back. Final stone for the Danish skip facing 2. The roll, trying to put it right on the face if they can get it there. But it'll leave Canada the chance to hit for 2.
That was a very tough roll. I think you're almost better off to have played the other roll, try to go the other way and try and get it a little bit behind the corner guard. Make Sandra's shot a little more difficult. He still could have been shot rock and rolled a little bit the other way. It's a wide open takeout for 2 and the key point of this end and maybe of this game.
Just with easier weight, just control house. Should come up that much, I think.
Hit for 2.
Clean her all the way down, eh?
The strategy that Sandra's employed has worked well for her. She really hasn't had to generate her offense, Linda. She's got the points basically by some, by some miscues on the part of them. Never mind, she hasn't got the second point yet.
No. Nice come around this end by Jan to set up this possible deuce.
Yep. Yeah.
Final stone.
Whoa, Whoa!
Comes up. Now sit for her. Will it sit? And it does. Back 12. Sandra Schmirler, the Canadians, forced to hold their breath, but they'll get their 2 here in 8. 4-2, Denmark to have the hammer when we come back to Bern. The Canadian lead, Marcy Gooderite, and her first stone sits top 12 as we start 9. Canada with 2 and 8 to lead 4-2. Denmark with the hammer.
Well, Helena recognizes that she's got to get some offense going now, so she's playing the short rock guard.
Lisa Richardson.
Interesting the way they're playing this guard. They're playing it closer to the middle.
On the center line, yeah, not the corner.
Eller
Det
mere?
skal i hvert fald, jamen, det skal også lidt længere. Kom nu, lidt til, lidt til, lidt
Trying to
til.
get it tight
lidt
too
til,
for maybe a
lidt til.
possible jam. Well, of course you can't peel it, can you?
Godt, Lisa.
Not yet.
Oh, you could in 1965, 75, 85.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, top 8. Yeah.
That way was probably close, Mars.
You don't want us to bring up 65, do you? Yeah, the biggest difference is, of course, the 4 rock versus 3 rock, and then 75 minutes, and we should just,
Got room.
instead of rules, put up Ray's reminder.
Oh, here it comes. You can go.
You have dominated this week, Vic. I mean, you being able to speak the language, you've kind of humbled us on a number of
Good
occasions.
shot, Mars.
Atta girl. Good shot.
It's funny, though, they do look at me sometimes. They know that I'm struggling, and they just go and break into perfect English.
We've been in the situation and watched you struggle as well, Vic, actually.
And with English,
on these
too, that's
telecasts,
right,
yeah. Good come around. It's not buried
Der er
completely.
ingen retning. Nej, 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 nej. Det må gerne blive en garter. Det gør ikke noget.
You know, just freezing
But
to
I
the face of it,
have-
trying to sit on top of it, right on the face of it.
Ah.
Trying to wait for it to come in.
Try and get by it now.
Okay, kom igen, Lisa.
Okay.
It tapped a little bit and isn't in front of it, so Canada can make a play on it.
Be great if you could do this, but the
Yeah,
one thing
I
you
like
don't want to
that.
do is that.
Why don't you want to do that?
Or here?
She's talking about not rolling into a position where you leave a easier hit and roll for the opponent. So she says a little
I'll
roll or
turn, I
roll all
think.
the way out is better than a halfway roll.
Joan Mccosker.
Close, yep. Hurry! Whoa, 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 whoa.
She's trying to roll right out of the rings now.
Hey, Joan.
That's good, Joan.
As Linda said, you didn't want to set it up in the
That's
open in the
fine.
8-foot so she can get the hit and roll in easier the other way. So she wanted it right over. Freeze to the face of the blue stone sitting on the top of the 4-foot. Lisa Richardson struggled a little bit today with her draw weight, Linda, and really hasn't got the placement of the stones in the proper spots. And we've talked about it all season through our telecasts, how important the lead stones can be with this free guard zone roll, and obviously with the 4 rocks over here.
Kun for farten. Skær nedad. Kom nu. Kom nu.
Well, it sets up the whole end. If it's not in the right spot, it really contradicts the strategy for the skip.
Træk det. Træk det.
Doherty Home in reverse of that has really played well all week, and there's another example of it. You get the stone in a good spot. It's not frozen perfectly, but it's right in front of the Canadian stone, so this will force Sanders to make a decision, and she's going to play the guard.
Don't have to be too tight. Like, that's good there.
Okay.
Joan Mccosker.
Lots of room. Line's out there. Whoa. Clean it. Clean it. Line's okay now.
Got lots of weight
Yep.
right in there.
Yep.
Nice and tight.
Hurry. Okay, that's good. You know what?
Here.
As she's in her backswing, I'm thinking maybe we should have peeled this one.
Well, yeah, we thought of that. It's okay.
Too
I
late.
don't mind that. I don't mind this.
Why would you say that? Maybe we should have peeled that one.
Synes I ikke, der er lidt for
The
lukket?
reason she's saying it is because they're up 2 in the 9th end. But if she did do that, peeled the yellow stone off, she would leave Denmark an opportunity to make a play on their own in the house. So
Der er ikke noget med,
I
at der
don't
ligger en
think
gul her i
that
stedet
there's
for.
anything wrong with
Det
this
ville være
guard.
fint.
And the team didn't either. They would have said something.
Dorothy Home, waiting for the skip to put down the brush.
Normalt, vi bliver nødt til. Jeg kan ikke rigtig komme til.
is a tough shot, and the reason being we've noticed that the ice is maybe a tiny bit straighter today, and also with the weight a little bit straighter than it's been, so it's tough to find the spot for the broom and then to anticipate the swing with the brushing.
And she'll catch a corner and then drive it across the face of that blue stone sitting top 12.
Godt, Donna.
So she has a chance now. If she wants to peel the guard, she can.
I like the guard.
That's what they were talking about, Lynn's talking about, but they're going to put another rock up into this area here.
Do you try and leave it a little longer? If they're contemplating doing the run back again, do you want to leave it longer?
Yeah, they said that last. You heard Sanders say last time, it doesn't have to be very tight.
No, it's tighter.
Of course, the longer it is, the easier, the harder it is to run it back perfectly. The tighter it is, the easier it is.
Yep. Okay, no,
This is going to be very tight.
Okay, that's good, Jen.
Another chance at this one. She could play this stone here, back onto the yellow stone, hoping to remove the blue stone. That's what she tried last time.
Rejse den der gule hernede. Normal bare.
Talking about running her own back onto the bluestone top 12 now.
Nede i det blå.
This one here is now what she's talking about.
Ja.
You surprised at this?
I think she's getting a little nervous about that blue one in the shot rock position and trying to run at it too many times with the other rays. This is a tough shot, though.
Yeah, I think you had a lot more possible things that could happen by playing the other one, Vic. First of all, it's tighter, and so it's not as hard as it was before, and I would have stayed with that trend on the other side.
She's got really nothing off this too.
We don't want her to blank it though.
Because that's not edge to edge, is it?
I don't really want to make a play on it because I don't like making a play on that yellow one at all. Yeah, I know.
It's one of those situations where the way the stones are right now, it's pretty good for Canada, and they don't want to make a mistake by putting something in the wrong spot.
Well, you heard Jan say, I don't want to make a play on that yellow one at all. I don't want to do it, make it for them. Let's listen to them.
I like it right on the sideline.
Does she have anything there?
No.
No, because she has to.
Talking about the guard, right on the center line.
It's like even if we give up two, it's no big deal, right?
Helena is worried about that stone and the fact that Canada has shot rock top 4, and she, at the moment, has no way to get at it.
Well, I think like about here, halfway.
Yeah.
About halfway.
You can come the same way.
Halfway to tight.
Come the same way. You had there. Go to there.
Having a great day with the circles, don't you think, Vic? Finishing up the season.
Must be the Swiss chocolate.
We never saw any of that chocolate. You've already got it packed.
Jan Betker. It's interesting. Jan made the point too to Sandra. I don't want to do anything that allows this end to blank. They want either to steal or force Norway to take something.
I'd like that control of having the hammer coming home.
That's fine.
Got it on the center line. Maybe got a little deeper than they wanted it.
But is that blue?
You could hit the blue now and catch the yellow on the way by.
Kan vi ikke lige få en blå, hun lige har lagt? Nogen, der kunne lave et eller andet.
Hans.
Der har du noget at bruge, ikke?
Synes stadigvæk, vi skal prøve at åbne.
We have to do something here for sure out in front. Now, if you hit that one and just come across and catch the face of this one, you might be able to push that one out a little bit. Good. The other rock she's looking at is running this one here. Back into that pocket right there.
Inden der, eller også, så skal vi gøre sådan. For nu ligger det til, at man kan gøre det. Og så bare skub den herned, det er fint. Du skal lidt mere end bagkant, for du skal rykke 3 sten. Ja. Ja.
Just quietly she's playing this, Linda. I'm a little surprised at this.
No, they have played it in previous attempts with takeout weight, and now they're looking like they're calling about hack weight, perhaps, backline to hack.
Gå godt. Der er ingen retning.
Den er ikke så hurtigt.
Nej, der er overhovedet ikke retning. Det er okay.
Well, she got that frozen a little tighter. Sandra's not going to be able to protect both of the raises. Double raises.
For one.
Well, yeah, but then she'd have another shot.
But we've got lots of options, right?
You want to half guard that one? So do you want to leave open?
Well, these rocks are now frozen.
Those ones. Well, actually,
frozen there, so.
She probably has something off the 4-stone, doesn't she? No. Like, we don't want to touch this one.
No. I'm thinking if we stick one, but then she's still got this off this one.
She's going to have either one of these. She's going to have a raise back with that one or a raise back with that one. That's what they're talking about. Can't protect them both. Onto the 2 stones that sit in that area there.
I don't know if I like that much. We could guard the 5.
What you have to do, you know, if they make that attempt, you're still going to have a chance with your next rock to try and get something in there. So you want to leave something open that you can then play with afterwards.
Right?
Well, yeah, but how are you going to get there?
Well, with the intern, across the face of it.
Okay, right now, if we guard the straight back, if we guard this one, leave her the straight back raise, and she makes it. Okay?
See, the thing about the straight back is that her rock's going to be sitting there, and that's the problem. If she makes these, her rock is
Yeah, I know. No, I'm just
gone.
thinking, just a minute. Okay, if we guard this one, she makes a straight run back. Then we have, the only shot we have is that one. That's not a very good shot.
Well, why not? Don't you
Well,
think?
it's really tough.
How much room is here?
This is the straight back one they're talking about.
Is it that tough?
This is the angle one.
Well, we'd play the in.
It's tough.
Well, we play the intern at it. We could play a tap on that.
Play a tap on that one?
It's just the only thing is if I cut the face, yikes, she plays a double and.
Tap at the top, and we're tapping this one back into this area here.
Okay, well, we got to speed up.
I like the way those rocks are sitting right there.
The other
Play
rock,
with raise on this one then.
the other shot they looked at.
Well, come down here.
You guys hurry up though, hey? Like,
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
We got lots of time.
Was this
Don't
one
worry about
here?
the time.
It's coming
Well, right?
through onto this one here.
No, we can't play
Pushing
that
it onto
guard.
the yellow one.
Because if she makes that run back, it's on the middle one. That's what she's going to play is the run back on the middle one.
But if you put a guard right there, right? Half center line, takes away this one, takes away that one.
Yeah, but then she makes that angle, and then we've got neither of ours.
I like to tap on this one.
What about tapping this one to here? Your shooter rolls here.
That one's tough.
Well, actually, you don't want to do that anyway because you
No,
want to leave it
that's
open.
blocking this
Tap
open.
Yeah, I
that
think
one
we're gonna play
there.
this one.
I think we want to leave that one
Back
open.
to
Yeah,
there.
we do, yeah.
Actually, what she does have is a nose. She has a nose hit on this to double that out,
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah, then we just hit her. Right?
Yeah, and then we can play a double on
Yeah.
hers.
You want to play a tap on that?
I think so.
Okay.
And maybe, we might even get some separation
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, you might.
Tapping this one here.
As
Okay,
long as
so
I don't
it's
cut the face of it.
Drawing to here, hey?
Well, all that discussion was trying to point out what Helena will have with her shots, and so now they're trying to say, we can't protect everything, so let's put our rocks into a position that if she makes that run back, we still have an option with our stones, and the Rays will give them a couple of options.
We're playing in the 9th, Canada with a 4-2 lead over Denmark, and Danes do have the hammer. Skip stones to come.
We'd be guarding the center line if we guarded anything.
Playing the straight tap back.
Dan thinks that intern hit is tough, but it doesn't look that tough to me to hit. Is it fudgy over here?
Asking if it's a little bit heavier or if it'll slow
So
quickly
same as
once
what I
it gets
threw
into
down
the
here?
house area, and I don't think
if
it's
I
been
threw-
much different over here. It will swing quite a bit on this side.
Sandra Schmirler in the first for the Canadian skip.
Yep. Hurry. What kind of weight?
Whoa!
We're nowhere near. We're on the center one. We're on the center line guard.
I'm not sure that was enough ice. That is the swinging turn.
Whoa! No! No!
No.
Oh, man.
Well, it was light too, big time light.
Once
What
it
she was
goes, it
playing.
just goes crazy, eh?
So they ended up protecting the straight back Rays a little bit.
Kevin Martin, his second. Rudy Ramcharan awaiting their practice time prior to going on the ice for their men's semifinal against Sweden and Peter Lindholm.
Vi kan også lave sådan en langsom en, der går ned og skubber den her ned i vores, som så skubber den der ud af.
Så ikke den skal spilles med en take-out?
Hvorfor dog det? Du skal jo ikke have den der ud, du skal bare skubbe den der lidt nedad, så den ligger i vejen. Altså, hvis du spiller en take-out, så kan hun vel få fat i den bagefter. Tror du ikke det?
Live update for you. Japan and Norway as they play the 8th, 9-4. Norway leading. Final stone for Japan and Mayumi Okutsu as she draws against two, certainly, maybe a third biter. They tried hard, Linda, get themselves into a position, played a lot of freezes, but Gordy Nordby with that big weight was able to get stones out of play, and so the two-time world champion is all smiles as she'll have the hammer playing 9 and up 9-5.
It's a very experienced Norway team, and you see Hanne Pedersen Woods in the team this time. They have 5 players and they play them all, and Hanne's very experienced as well, so it's been tough for the Japanese team.
Those threes really jump out at you. Japan comes back with a 3 in the second and then turn around and hand the field goal right back to Norway in 3.
Det er sådan kun lige kanterne, ikke?
Altså den der.
Ja. Så lad os prøve den.
Hvis du ikke er enig, så ved jeg
You know, to
ikke.
look at Sandra Schmirler, I don't know,
Den er også svær at styre herovre.
just didn't seem comfortable.
Er der også det helt derude?
Some of
Nej, der er
the
ikke noget stort fald herude.
her shot making, the team's shot making. Did you agree?
They haven't been crisp this game. They haven't really been pushed this game either. Helena's team has made some mistakes, some mental errors we talked about when they had chance to sit too. Now Helena only has one chance here, and that's the raise we talked about earlier. Sandra's problem this end is that last guard she threw, that she didn't want to be a guard. It's maybe cut down some of her options on her last rock, and that's why this end she's looking a little puzzled.
Hitting this stone here, back onto the yellow stone, removing the blue stone.
This will be the first for the Danish skip, Helena Blach-Lavrsen. She does have the hammer, trailing 4-2, playing 9.
Oui!
Oui! Oui!
Linda mentioned earlier in this end, it really cuts here, so you have to take enough ice because it'll really move across, and you have to hit this rock on the outside.
Trying to hold it up, and they can't. And now they've taken away and moved their Yellowstone enough. The bump isn't there.
Really do. Let's play the same guard we played when we were guarding that. No, we were guarding that stone over there. It's the same, exact same shot. Actually, she has the angle off the 7.
Yeah, the thing you could do is hit the yellow rock and get rid of it, because then there's no way they could possibly score 2 on you. This is what Sandra's talking about, that stone there.
Better hit that maybe, eh?
Yeah, I think so. I would do that for sure.
Yeah.
That's what she's got for the deuce.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Otherwise, she just has that to draw.
I like it too. That's the one I would be hitting.
Nose or
anything, really.
Yeah, if we can do
that.
that.
Don't want to run that in the open.
No, this is perfect.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. She took a minute to find that, but the minute she saw it, that's the only way that Denmark could get 2 on you.
And that's what they were saying all end. Coaches are probably pretty happy with this. That
Brian, you can see Brian likes it for sure. A little nod of the head. Yeah, get that out of there.
Right, you see Brian Mccosker. He's in the red and black shirt. Dave Parks, general manager of the Canadian Curling Association, over his shoulder in the red jacket, arms crossed. That's Pat Reed. She's the president of the Canadian Curling Association.
And a good one she is.
Hit and roll. Half open would be perfect.
Final stone for Canada and Sandra Schmirler. Denmark does have the hammer.
Hooray! Hurry! Hurry! No.
Good shot.
It's a good shot.
Okay, I didn't throw it good enough.
Okay, we're gonna have to
Just
play
didn't
fast.
throw it good
A
enough.
draw for 1 is all I can see.
Playing the double bump, there's no hole there, is there?
I think there might be, but that's a very tough shot.
There's a little hole, but I think you have to draw for 1 here, Vic. The 2 overlap stones in the center line take away that raise on you.
Piece of the button for 1.
Full 4-foot. Through the hole. Drawn here. Sandra made one of these back a little earlier. Into that area there. Get your single. Certainly not that hard to draw, but they're hard to make.
Well, especially in this spot, because they've been moving the broom out into the 12-foot, and a couple of them have run a little bit straighter, but once they get to the edge of the 4-foot band, they just take off.
She trails by 2. Helena Blach-Lavrsen realizes that a steal of 1 here by Canada could be the game. The 82 world champion. Here it comes. Sitting time. Slipped too far. It does. Didn't come enough. Needed a piece of the white. Needed to put the bite on the Ford. Steal of 1 for Canada and a 5-2 lead. The Canadians 1 end away, and hey, they're starting to smile. Public transit here in Bern and really all over Europe is wonderful as the tram makes its way by the concert hall here in Bern, and the site of these Ford World Curling Championships for 1997 as we go to the 10th. Canada up 5-2 after the steal of 1 in 8. And the Canadian stone, the first stone was thrown through, and the first stone by Denmark's lead, Lisa Richardson, is hogged.
That's not a good sign. You're trying to score 3 points. Got to get that rock up front. So Marcy gets a chance to throw another one through the rings, and that's exactly what she's doing.
Okay, let's go, Jan. Let's go.
Yep.
Three-inners are possible in the 4-rock rule because you have a chance to get 2 stones up there, Vic. So that was a big hog shot by Lisa. She really has struggled badly with her draw weight. Either that or that caught something. It just seemed to die quick on her. But, she's got to get this one short of the rings for sure, into the free guard zone area. If it slips into the rings, then Sandra can hit it, of course. That's exactly what it's going to do.
Okay, Lisa.
So this game, for all intents and purposes, is now over.
Pretty straight here, Joan.
Appeal, Joan Mccosker.
Yep. Yep.
Jan Betker closest to the stone. Marcy Gooderite out in front.
Hurry! Right over, right over, right over. Good shot, Joan.
And they'll roll it close enough to the boards. Dorte home. If you look at this from Denmark's perspective, and they've made some mental mistakes, as we've pointed out, would you suggest to them, if you were to take Helena Blach-Lavrsen aside and analyze the game, would you say you got to go out there and be a little bit more aggressive?
Well, I actually think that Helena, her early strategy was fine. I think that she wanted to get through the early part of this game, stay close to Canada. They know how good the team is. And like I think in reverse that maybe Sandra should have chased her earlier, but she obviously didn't need to. She had decided that she could beat her just strictly on the miscues that she's going to make, and that's what happened. Denmark just did not play. She had a couple of chances. She had a chance to split the house to lie 2. She couldn't get. Lisa Richardson really struggled with draw weight, so she couldn't get the lead rocks in the position to generate offense. So. And then the last stand with the steal, Canada executed it perfectly. They got the rocks in the spots they wanted, and when Helena had the chance to run a stone back, she curled too much and so on and so forth. So, there's a big difference of being 3 down as opposed to being 1 down. You get your single in that end, you're 1 down coming home, and with the 4-rock rule, anything can happen. You can steal a point. So they just didn't execute. Denmark had a few chances, it just didn't execute. But you're going to have to play awful big time to beat this team.
Their focus has been terrific the entire week, and really attacked and approached every game as if it was at the Scott Tournament of Hearts. That was the way they wanted to approach everything.
Rightly so. And it looks like Dorte Nordby, also a 2-time world champion, is going to beat Japan. That game isn't over yet, but Dorte has a 9-5 lead. So it's going to set up a wonderful final. You got two world champions, both of them having won twice and looking to be the first team to go to 3. So it'll be a tremendous final, ladies' final. Assuming both these games are over, of course.
Margie Portner.
Bare med over stregen, så er det godt nok. Nu skal de meget gerne ramme lige på.
Skal vi lave en driller?
Jan Betker. As Canada will try to run the Danes out of stones.
Good brushing, guys. Good brushing.
It's a solid team. They had to work hard to get out of Saskatchewan. They didn't have walk over into the Scott Dermot Hearts. They had to win the province again. They did that. They went to the Scott Dermot Hearts with a good field, and they had a great week. They dominated all week long, and they went on to win it in the final against Allison Goring. And they've come here, as we've already mentioned. I'm sure it's repetitious to everyone, but they really did stay with it all week. They didn't let themselves get, as Vic mentioned, out of focus. They maybe had one day where they were a little tired, but they're now into the final, and it should be a very, very good game.
13:85. God fart.
Barring some kind of disaster, this is over. Sandra will make a hit here, and it'll be the sound of the Velcro snap.
Right. I haven't used that in a while.
No. No one's wearing the gloves. No one's wearing those gloves anymore.
No, I don't think I've heard that since '86.
Wow. Okay, just make contact, eh?
Times didn't seem too sure of herself, but scoreboard is what it's important, and Canada leading 5-2. And the chance to run the Danes out of stones.
Okay, guys.
Chance to win it here for Canada.
No, not at all, no.
And Sandra Schmirler out of the Cali Curling Club in Regina, looking to put herself into the final
Shot, Sandra.
of the 97 Ford Worlds in Canada, and Schmirler will have a chance to win her third. 5-2, the final score. Canada, a winner over Denmark.
We just worked hard on this baby.
Marcy Gooderite, the lead, hasn't been feeling well at all this week.
Hi, Rory. Hi, Rory. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Chrissy. Hi, Shannon. Be home soon. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Frank. Love you. Hi, Colin. Hi, Auntie Twyla. And Mom and Dad. Hi, Mom and Dad. Hi, Grandma.
Might as well get them all in.
in.
Some of the husbands couldn't make it as we check in on the game between Japan and Norway. It's 9-5, Norway leading. They do have the hammer. Final stone in the 9th for the Japanese skip, Mayumi Okutsu. And she'll crash in front. Norway is lying now after the rub, is lying 2, 1 back 4, and 1 top 8.
Playing the split here, you think, Vic? Going to try and split that on the for an extra point.
To really
for
bury
4,
them.
yeah. That looks like it.
Doherty Nordby, who yesterday took herself out of her final round-robin game, missed the last 4 ends because of a little bit of sickness. And she is something. She works very hard, Ray, at trying to develop the game in Norway. She's teaching a lot. And as she agrees with you, she says it has to start, the growth of the game has to start at the grassroots level.
She's working with the association there, and they really need work, because it's just a shame. I spent a lot of time, actually I went 11 years in a row back to Norway, and the game was growing in the 70s and early 80s, and then all of a sudden it just died. They had a terrific administrator there, a friend of mine, Stanley Flostrand, that had done so much work for curling, and see, when they lost him, they lost the spark.
Looking for the little bump for 3. And there it is, 3. And handshakes. And Doherty Nordby, the 2-time world champion, is into the final against Canada and Sandra Schmirler. So it'll be a battle of double world champions here at the Ford Worlds in Bern, Switzerland. And the 2 best teams the entire week will be in the women's final and playing for the championship trophy here at these Ford Worlds. 12-5, the final. Norway a winner over Japan. And when we come back to the Almond Ice Stadium, interviews with both Sandra Schmirler and Dorty Nordby. Time now for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by UAP Napa Auto Parts, Ray.
Well, there was a key shot in this end. The key shot to this end was a come around by Jan Betker, but you have to make these hits and sticks to get the extra points. It was the 8th end. There wasn't a lot of rocks in play through the entire game. Sandra had a game plan. She kept it fairly simple, and she executed better than Denmark, and she got this big hit, and for 2, rolls almost too far, but hangs on, and that's the deuce, the control point, and that turned the game around.
Canada wins it 5-2. Cash donation will be made to the Coaches Association of Canada for the training and development of coaches in amateur sport on behalf of TSN and UAP Napa Auto Parts. The pick of the pros, the right brand for the job. So Canada is through to the final and will now play Norway and Dorty Nordby for the women's title here at these Ford Worlds in Bern, Switzerland. Congratulations to Sandra Schmirler, and she's with Linda.
Well, Sandra, a really good game. An interesting game because it was a little bumpy for both teams.
Well, it's not unlike the 2 other games we played on that sheet, Linda. It just seems that on that sheet, for whatever reason, it seems to fudge over in a couple spots, and we had problems with that sheet all week. But we kind of struggled and emerged through it. 3 games on that sheet, and we won them all. So we're ecstatic that we came through with a win, and we're really looking forward till tomorrow.
It was a fairly open game, especially in the middle part of the game by Denmark. Did you think that they would play a little more offensively?
Well, I guess they had stolen the point in the second end, so that gave them a bit of control, and I think she thought that was enough points for her and didn't need to go for it. But we played them in the round robin last game, and they played it quite a wide open style, so we weren't too surprised.
Now, the problem with that kind of sheet, you didn't play badly, and you were saying one example was the raise you tried that just over-curled, but it makes you sort of struggle in your head with the draw weight, the line, everything.
Well, it does, but the thing is we came off that sheet 2 times during the week, went on to other sheets and played fantastic. So that won't have a problem in the final, I don't believe.
Well, it's a big game coming up because we've just seen Dorty Nordby on the other sheet take the game. 2-time world champions heading together into the final. How does that feel?
Well, I guess it's kind of deserving because it's the top 2 teams all week, and that's what you want to see in the final. We'll just go out, play as hard as we can. We had a fantastic game against them, really close in the round robin. It went down to last few stones, so that's probably what will happen tomorrow.
Well, congratulations again. A great semifinal, and good luck to you in the final.
Okay, thanks, Linda. I'd like to say hello to Carol and Mike and Calgary and Bev and Dave and all their kids and Mom and Dad and Shannon. See you in a few days.
Vic, back to you.
And hopefully see you in a few days, bringing with her the Women's World Championship from here at the Ford Worlds in Bern, Switzerland. It's going to be Norway and Canada in the women's final of these Ford Worlds. Norway, Dorty Nordby, a 12-5 winner over Japan, and Mayumi Okotsu, who gave it a good go and qualified for the first ever women's semifinal. Dorty Nordby is with Linda.
Well, Dorty, congratulations on a good semifinal. You played a very game Japanese team, a team that's improving every year, and they had a good start to the game.
Yeah, they played really well, and in the second end they had some of the best shots I ever seen, and suddenly they were lying with 3, and we had to make a comeback and started to play with guards, and then we got 3 points. So it was a really nice game, a really funny game to play.
You were just talking to me about how well the Japanese have progressed. That now you saw it last year a little bit, and now this year you see the experience, especially in the strategy, and that's where it used to be tough for them.
Yes, they play much better than they did 2 years ago, but now the spirit is 10 times bigger. They are gelling much more, and they are calling the right shots too. All the 10th end.
Well, you're into the final, playing another 2-time champion, Sandra Schmirler. What do you expect from that game?
I think tomorrow will be a really good game, and I hope we will have a lot of fun, and we are really looking forward to play against them.
Well, you're always very motivated to play Canada. I know you like to play them. But any thoughts about that, the fact that you're going for your third title and so is Sandra?
Yes, for sure. A lot of people talk about it, but for sure it's... they have to play good and we have to play good, and I hope the best team will win.
Now, I noticed you brought Hannah into that game. She has a lot of experience, but you tend to play all your players. Who do you think you'll line up in the final?
That's a secret. We have rotated the whole week, all the games, and the lineup is like we have played okay all the games through the whole week, so we have to talk about who is going to play. And today Marion didn't feel well, so she wanted to look, and she was really happy where she was sitting.
Well, I'm sure she was. It was a great win for you. Good luck in the final against Canada.
Thank you very much.
Vic?
So it's a secret, is it?
Yeah, it's a secret.
Not going to tell us. Well, in Bern, of course, Bern is German for bear, and you'll see lots of bears around the Swiss capital. And of course, Kevin Martin getting ready for his practice session prior to taking the ice in the men's semi-final against Sweden and Peter Lindholm when we come back to the Almond Ice Stadium here in Bern, Switzerland. Still to come from here in Bern, Switzerland, the men's semi-final featuring Canada against Sweden. The Canadian women are through to the final. They'll play Norway and Doherty Nordby. It's been an inconsistent week for the Canadian men. We'll see how they do, but a very impressive week for the Canadian women. Jan Betker's with Linda.
Jan, congratulations. A very nice semi-final. Phase 2 is complete. Now you're moving into Phase 3 in the final. It must feel great.
It does feel really good. We knew we'd have a really, really tough game this afternoon against Denmark. They throw very, very well. And we kind of didn't get off to a great start this afternoon, but we hung in there and came through in the end. It feels wonderful.
We talk about the phases because really through round-robin play you just want to make it to the semifinals, and obviously today just make it to the final. But get back to the round-robin a minute because there's been a few ups and downs. You've had a sore leg. Marcy wasn't feeling very well. It is a long week, isn't it?
It is a long week, and it just seemed like this week little things would happen, that the leg and then Marcy, of course, and then now my back got sore and whatnot. But because it's the last event of the year too, it makes it that much easier to play, and you know there's a big prize at the end if you can hang on and just keep playing. So actually it wasn't too bad.
And I commented how focused you looked. We haven't been here all week, but since I arrived, very focused. You knew exactly what you wanted to do, and the game plan seemed to hang together.
Yeah, and I think the experience of being at a World Championship before really, really helps in that situation because we've been there before, and we know about the 3 phases at the round robin. The loss that we got wasn't a huge thing. It was a minor setback, and we just carried on from there and refocused for the semi-final. And now that we've gotten through the semi-final, now we can refocus for the final tomorrow. So definitely experience is a great teacher.
And we also talked a little bit during the game. You've got a wonderful team, also with Anita Ford, Tina Ford, who's played for you, Lindsay Sparks as team manager. Really, you've got a nice package there.
We sure do, and it's so comfortable because Anita has been there with us for the last 2 Worlds we were at, and of course Lindsay also. And Tina, we've known her for years at the club and whatnot. She's so keen, and she's just such a great person to have with us. She's very, very personable, and she's enthusiastic, and she's a great thrower also. So it's a great team.
We've enjoyed watching you all year, and we wish you the best of luck in the final.
Thanks, Linda.
Vic?
Best of luck to the Canadian women as they go against Doherty Nordby in tomorrow's women's final here at the Ford World. Still to come, the men's semi-final. The Canadian men now on the ice and throwing their first stones. Kevin Martin tied with Scotland at 7-2 and given first place by virtue of his win over the Scots and Hemi McMillan. And Canada will play Sweden and Peter Lindholm, the former world junior champion, who won his junior championship in Markham, Ontario. And when he did, he said, you know what, I've got to come to Canada to play. And he has on a consistent basis year after year. And he wears a Canadian gold chain around his neck. He's as much Canadian, many people think, as Kevin Martin, his team himself. So that we will have for you, the men's semi-final. When we come back, congratulations to Sandra Schmirler. She's through to the final. Now let's go back to Toronto and this Sports Desk Update.